All right, so are you ready to dive deep today?
Always ready.
Because we're doing something kind of different.
Oh,
We're exploring a music review, but not just any review.
okay.
This one's from the Igluon Vinyls channel,
Okay, I've heard of them.
and they took on David Gilmour's Scattered, which is off the album Luck and Strange.
Okay.
And if you're not familiar, Gilmour's the former guitarist from Pink Floyd.
Right, known for that soulful, often kind of melancholic music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Scattered definitely fits that vibe.
definitely.
And Igluon Vinyls went way deeper than, just like your average thumbs up or thumbs down. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure.
They got into some serious lyrical analysis and symbolism.
That's cool. What I think is so fascinating is how Igluon Vinyls connected the feeling of scattered to this almost universal experience of grappling with time.
I see.
One of the first things they point out is that the song isn't just sad, it's really about the fleeting nature of life itself. It's something we all deal with, but the lyrics bring it to the forefront in a really poetic way.
Okay, so they're not just reviewing the music, right?
Right.
They're using it as a launch pad for these bigger ideas.
Exactly.
So how do they actually tie this fleeting nature of life concept to the song itself?
Well, they pull out specific lines like, time is a tide, it ebbs and it flows. And they argue that Gilmour is using this metaphor to emphasize how relentless time is. It's cyclical, it keeps moving, regardless of what we do. But there's a deeper layer here, too. Think about the ancient Greeks. They had two concepts of time. Chronos, which is linear time, the ticking clock, and kairos, which is about opportune moments, the right time for something.
Right.
Scattered seems to be wrestling with both.
So it's not just that time keeps passing, it's that we're trying to find meaning within that passage to seize those right moments. I like that.
Yeah.
But Igluon Vinyls also pointed out this sense of struggle, right?
Right.
Like we're fighting against time's inevitability.
Exactly. They use that striking image of a man stands in a river, pushes against the stream.
Oh, wow.
You can almost feel the futility of that action, the exhaustion of trying to resist something so powerful. And again, this connects back to that tension between Chronos and Kairos. We might be aware of time's linear march, but we still fight to make certain moments matter.
Which brings us to their third big theme, the importance of cherishing memories.
Yes.
And I feel like this ties in so perfectly with the other two.
Absolutely.
The more fleeting life feels, the more we struggle to hold on, the more precious those memories become.
It's like a feedback loop. And the line that Igluon Vinyls focuses on here is just heartbreaking. Precious things you gave, falling through my hands, these worlds, the scattered sand.
Yeah, it's not just that these precious things are lost, right?
Right.
It's that they're scattered, fragmented, almost like even if you could gather them up, the full picture is gone.
And that word scattered keeps coming up. Igluon Vinyls suggests it's not just about the memories themselves, but about how our very experience of life can feel fragmented, especially as we get older. Moments, people, feelings, they scatter.
Okay, so I've got these three intertwined themes. Life's fleeting nature, our struggle against time, and the preciousness of memories.
Yes.
What I found really cool is how Igluon Vinyls then took all of this and connected it to the music itself, not just the lyrics.
Well, music has this incredible power to amplify emotion.
Right.
It's like it adds another dimension to what the words are conveying.
Yeah.
And Igluon Vinyls picked up on some really specific things in Scattered that enhance these themes.
Like what?
They pointed out the haunting piano and how it creates this atmosphere of contemplation, of introspection. But then there's also this heartbeat-like rhythm running through the song.
Which is so interesting because a heartbeat is literally a measure of time passing. It's like this subtle reminder of our own mortality woven right into the fabric of the song.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you've got Gilmour's guitar work. He's known for being so soulful, expressive. Igluon Vinyls argues that in Scattered, his guitar becomes almost like a voice, expressing those feelings of struggle and acceptance that we've been talking about.
They mentioned his use of bending, vibrato, sustain. I'm not a musician, but even I could hear how those techniques were adding this emotional weight to the music.
Think of it this way. The bend of a note can sound like yearning. A vibrato can tremble with uncertainty, and a long sustain can feel like holding on to something even as it fades away. Gilmour is a master of using these techniques to convey emotion.
Right.
And on top of all that, Scattered has these orchestral arrangements that swell in at times, adding to the cinematic quality of the song.
It's true. It gives the song this epic feel, almost like the music itself is reflecting the vastness of time and the weight of these themes. But there's this one section of lyrics that Igloo on Vinyls really dove into, and I think it's where all of these ideas come together in the most powerful way. So the part that goes, and all these precious things you gave falling through my hands, these worlds, this scattered sand, I stand in a river, push against the stream. Time is a tide that disobeys, and it disobeys me. It never ends.
That entire passage is just packed with imagery and meaning.
It really is.
It's like Gilmour distilled the whole song into those few lines, and Igloo on Vinyls really went to town on it, which I think is where we should pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good.
So we left off talking about those lyrics.
Yeah, that really powerful passage.
Yeah, and all these precious things you gave falling through my hands. These worlds, the scattered sand, I stand in a river, push against the stream. Time is a tide that disobeys, and it disobeys me. It never ends.
Right, like where do we even begin with that?
Well, Igloo on Vinyls starts by breaking down those first lines, right?
Okay.
And all these precious things you gave falling through my hands.
Yeah.
And they talk about how it emphasizes this feeling of helplessness, the frustration of trying to hold on to something that's inherently slipping away.
And they bring back that powerful sand metaphor here.
Oh, absolutely.
These worlds, this scattered sand. But it's interesting, they don't just say it represents memories. They connect it to this idea of our experiences being fragmented.
Right, right.
Like even if we could grasp onto those grains of sand, the complete picture's gone.
It's a brilliant observation. And I think it speaks to something we all feel as we move through life, you know?
Yeah.
It's not just that we forget things, it's that our perception of the past changes.
Right.
Becomes less clear, more scattered.
It's almost like each grain of sand is a tiny piece of a memory, and the more time passes, the more those pieces get spread out, jumbled up.
Exactly. And then Gilmour throws us right back into that sense of struggle with the next lines. I stand in a river, push against the stream. Remember, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Igloo on Vinyls argues that this is where the fight against time becomes most explicit.
And it's interesting because it's not a fight against death, necessarily.
Yeah, right.
It's a fight against the current of life itself.
Yeah.
That feeling of wanting to slow things down, to hold on to what's slipping away.
Which, of course, is impossible.
Right.
And I think those final lines of the passage drive that point home. Time is a tide that disobeys, and it disobeys me. It never ends. There's this stark realization in those words.
It's almost like a surrender, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like after all that pushing against the stream, Gilmour is acknowledging that time ultimately wins. But there's something else I noticed in Igloo on Vinyl's analysis.
Okay.
They talk about how those last 3 lines, time's a tide that disobeys, and it disobeys me, it never ends, feel almost separate from the rest of the verse,
Oh, interesting.
both lyrically and musically.
You're right. They even suggest that maybe it was added later in the songwriting process.
Yeah.
Like Gilmour stepped back from the emotional intensity of the previous lines and just stated a simple truth, you know?
Yeah.
Time's power is absolute. And musically, there's a shift, too. The music seems to pause, almost like taking a breath before those final lines. It emphasizes the weight of them.
And it adds to that feeling of surrender, like the music itself is acknowledging this universal truth.
Absolutely.
So we've got this incredibly poetic passage where all of the song's themes are coming together, the fleeting nature of life, the struggle, the loss. But then Igloo on Vinyls does something really interesting.
Oh.
They start talking about how this section also hints at a different kind of scattering.
Okay.
Not just the scattering of memories, but the scattering of our identities.
Oh, it's a fascinating point.
So they talk about